Japan's decision to pursue the Aegis system-equipped vessel, or ASEV, represents a turning point in its maritime defense architecture and a deeper transformation in how the country thinks about national security. As a maritime nation surrounded by potential missile threats, Japan must maintain a reliable and adaptable layer of ballistic missile defense at sea. The ASEV appears not as a symbolic development, but as a substantive capability shift that addresses emerging threats around the Japanese homeland and its extended maritime domain. Rather than existing purely as a warship, this platform is a floating defensive shield, representing Japan's emphasis on deterrence, readiness, and continuity of defensive posture in a time of strategic uncertainty. The story begins with Japan's pursuit of Aegis Ashore, a fixed land-based ballistic missile defense installation. The technical capability was powerful and conceptually sound, but deployment raised internal concerns. Local communities in Akita and Yamaguchi objected due to risks associated with falling booster stages from interceptors, and the political cost became increasingly burdensome. Fixed installations also posed strategic limitations, creating a static defensive footprint vulnerable to targeting and surveillance. The government ultimately chose to halt the plan entirely, not as retreat, but as strategic redirection. The solution was to take the same protective functionality and mobilize it, placing missile defense aboard large vessels capable of repositioning dynamically based on threat vectors. The ASEV concept thus emerged. Instead of installing Aegis radars on Japanese soil, Japan would construct specialized vessels capable of maintaining ballistic missile defense coverage across the region. Mobility enables flexibility. Operating at sea mitigates domestic opposition. Integration with allied naval assets becomes more seamless. In the Indo-Pacific theater, where naval fleets rarely sit still, keeping the defensive capability mobile is a natural evolution. The ASEV's projected displacement of around 12,000 to 14,000 tons places it among the largest destroyer-like platforms in the world, nearly rivaling cruisers of older classifications. The defining technological cornerstone is the AN/SPY-7 radar, a next-generation solid-state active electronically scanned array designed for tracking and discrimination of ballistic targets. Complementing this radar is an estimated 128 vertical launch system cells, enabling it to carry a deep magazine of interceptors. These will include the SM-3 family for exo-atmospheric interception and the SM-6 family with multi-role capabilities suitable for terminal ballistic interception, air defense, and limited anti-surface employment. The warship exists primarily to detect and neutralize incoming missiles, but the sheer size of its launch capacity grants it potential for expanded roles, including long-range conventional strike capabilities should Japanese policy continue evolving toward counter-strike doctrine. In terms of fleet structure, ASEV will not replace the Maya, Atago, or Kongo classes, but will instead anchor the ballistic missile defense segment of Japan's maritime shield. Where Kongo-class ships represented the first Japanese Aegis surface combatants, and Maya-class represented the integration of cooperative engagement capabilities for shared sensor networks, ASEV represents a third stage, specialization. Rather than general-purpose destroyers that can handle anti-submarine, anti-surface, and anti-air missions equally, ASEV is purpose-built for strategic defense. It will operate as a central node in a web of maritime surveillance, receiving and sharing sensor data via secure link architectures including Link 16 and the Japan-U.S. Cooperative Engagement System. The geographic realities of Japan fundamentally shape its defense requirements. The country has no land borders. All threats approach from maritime or aerial domains. North Korea's missile launches over Honshu have established a persistent psychological and strategic challenge. China's accelerating missile inventory and dual-capable systems likewise alter the defense equation. The ASEV's ability to remain at sea, positioned along likely missile flight corridors, and adjusted repositioning based on real-time threat assessments gives Japan a strategic buffering radius that land-based systems could not provide. It is naval defense arranged in depth, not a wall at the shoreline, but a protective bubble projected outward into the Pacific. Beyond threat mitigation, ASEV reflects a broader cultural strategic shift in Japanese defense doctrine. Since the end of the Second World War, Japan's military posture has formally centered on strictly defensive capacity. However, the interpretation of defense has broadened, moving toward what Japan now refers to as active defense or counterstrike capability. The logic is that purely passive defense creates vulnerability and invites pressure. Having the ability to threaten the disabling of adversary missile launch systems creates a different deterrence dynamic. While ASEV is not principally a strike platform, it forms part of an integrated defense ecosystem that includes upgrades to F-15JSI aircraft, procurement of long-range missile systems, and research into hypersonic intercept techniques. Defense is still the mission, but Japan no longer considers defense purely reactive. Domestic industrial participation is another key dimension. Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, Japan Marine United, NEC, and other firms are deeply involved in development and construction. Japan is actively balancing procurement cooperation with the United States with an aspiration for domestic technological sovereignty. In time, the paradigm may shift from U.S.-designed Aegis systems to Japanese-led adaptations. The ASEV program is not only acquiring hulls and hardware, but also building human capital in radar engineering, software architecture, naval electrical infrastructure, and ballistic detection analytics. There are challenges. The cost of constructing such vessels is significant. Rather than using abbreviated currency symbols, the amount can be understood as hundreds of billions of yen per ship. Recruiting and retaining personnel skilled in operating Aegis-level detection and interception systems remains an ongoing concern. Japanese naval crews are already heavily professionalized, but specialization demands even deeper training pipelines. Maintenance costs will scale with technological sophistication. These ships will likely require regular upgrades throughout their life cycle to stay relevant against evolving missile threats. The regional reaction is predictable. North Korea condemns every Japanese missile defense improvement as militarization, despite continuing missile tests of its own. China expresses concern over capabilities that can theoretically track and intercept its missile inventory and alters the calculus of strategic parity. South Korea remains cautious but not hostile, recognizing that Japan's ballistic missile defenses also serve to protect the broader region from errant North Korean launches. The United States is openly supportive, and ASEV is expected to integrate tightly with U.S. Navy systems in the Western Pacific. In conclusion, the ASEV cannot be viewed simply as a larger destroyer. It represents a distinct strategic language, Japan's defense posture expressed materially. It is not a vessel built for prestige, but for continuity of sovereignty. By deploying ballistic missile defense at sea, Japan exerts control over the timing and geometry of defense rather than waiting passively for incoming trajectories. In combination with Maya and Atago-class destroyers, Izumo-class carriers operating F-35B aircraft, and next-generation Taige-class submarines, ASEV positions Japan to maintain a layered maritime defense system into the next decade. The message it sends is not aggressive, simply that Japan will ensure it cannot be coerced or threatened by missile pressure. The ASEV is a demonstration of quiet resilience and strategic foresight, rooted in the unique geography and security culture of the Japanese nation.